Omar put a man named Sariya to be in charge over the Persian armies. He was in Medina and he's giving giving the Jummah khutbah. In the middle of his khutbah, he yells in a loud voice, Ya Sariyat al-Jabal, Ya Sariyat al-Jabal. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In our Ramadan series on the stories of the Awliya, we've turned to Umar ibn Al-Khattab and his various karamat in which he interacted with what we would call nature. He wrote a letter to the Nile. Now we're going to look at what he did with an earthquake and with a fire. And if you notice how beneficial all these are. A lot of people like to talk about karamat, but look at the benefit that he's brought here with this. Earthquake happened in Medina. Umar ibn Khattab took his stick and he hit the earth. وَقَالَ أُسْكُنِي بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Rest, be tranquil by the permission of Allah. And he says, Ya ard uskuni alam a'dil alayki fasakanat. He says, haven't I been just on you? And so the earth stood still. And we saw the Prophet ﷺ when Uhud shook. The Prophet ﷺ said, be tranquil, for upon you is a prophet and a Siddiq and two martyrs. That is a prophet and Abu Bakr and Omar and Uthman. Right, so they had the Prophet speaking to the mountain of Uhud. We then had the Prophet ﷺ used to stand on a tree stump to give his khutbah until they made him a proper mimbar. And the Sahaba heard that tree stump weeping until the Prophet ﷺ touched it and said, and quelled its sadness. So look at the interaction of the prophets and the awliya with nature is simply another creation of Allah Ta'ala that has its own life form. It's just far reduced than ours. It's not merely an inanimate object, and it can testify for us or against us. Let's take a look at Omar and the fire. وقعت النار في بعض دور المدينة. Some of the homes in Medina caught fire. فكتب عمر على خرقة. Omar wrote on a cloth, يا نار اسكني بإذن الله. So they took that cloth and they tossed it into the fire, and the fires went down immediately. So again, Umar ibn Khattab, with his special relationship with nature, that he speaks to it, commands it, and it obeys him. Like a soldier would obey him, like another person in the ummah would have to obey him. Sayyidina Ali one time asked Omar, why does everyone fear you? There's a lot of big people. Omar was big, but there's a lot of big people. No one fears them. He says, because I fear Allah. So Allah made the creation fear me. SubhanAllah. Prophet ﷺ said about Omar, if he goes a path, Iblis goes the opposite way. And why is that? When a human cannot physically fight a jinn, he says because Omar closes all the doors of doubts. All the doors where shaitan could possibly wiggle in, Omar closes those doors well in advance. It's called Saddu Dhari'ah, closing the route onto harm. وكان عمر قد أمر سارية على جيش للمسلمين. This is actually a famous story, but we're giving these videos to people learning these things for the first time. Omar put Sariya, a man named Sariya, to be in charge over the Persian armies. فاشتد على عسكره الحال. They had a hard time at the door, the gate of a city called Nahawand. They couldn't get in. وكثرت الجموع. Right, big group were there. وكاد المسلمون ينهزمون. The enemy was a lot in number, and they were going to be destroyed. وعمر رضي الله تعالى عنه بالمدينة. He was in Medina. فصعد المنبر وخطب, and he's giving the Jummah khutbah. ثم استغاث في إثناء خطبته بأعلى صوته. And in the middle of his khutbah, he yells in a loud voice, يا سارية الجبل, يا سارية الجبل. So he said, O Sariya, the mountain. Sariya, the mountain. Okay. فأسمع الله سارية وجيشه أجمعين. The Sariya and the entire army heard the voice of Omar. فلجأوا إلى الجبل. So they went to the mountain. وقالوا هذا صوت أمير المؤمنين. This is the sound of Omar is here. He's warning them about the mountain. فنجوا وانتصروا. So they were saved and they were victorious. In other words, he's basically was telling them, you forgot to look at the mountain. The enemy's coming from the mountain. If the enemy had reached the mountain peak before you had, then they'd have the upper advantage and they'd kill you all. But by them hearing Omar's voice, they went all the way up to the top of the mountain and they were able to defeat their enemies. This is in Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya. Subhanallah. So, how does this happen? Suyuti has an essay on this. Suyuti says very simple. Allah Ta'ala can create whatever He wishes for another person. He can create the same voice. He can create it there. Well, how did Omar see it? It's amazing how we even wonder how these karamats can happen to awliya Allah, the people of Allah, when today we easily know how something could be broadcast to us from halfway around the world. I could know what's happening in China right now. There are websites, live stream of public places. I could probably see the public square in Belgium if I wanted to, public square in Buenos Aires if I wanted to. Everything's live streamed now. Non-believers can do this. You think that the ways of Allah Ta'ala are inferior, right? The ways of Allah are not inferior. So Allah Ta'ala showed him the image of Sariya while he's giving the Jum'ah khutbah, and he created his voice, replicated his voice in Persia so that he could hear his voice there. And subhanallah, Umar ibn Khattab saves the entire army through these karamat. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. If you like these videos, you can catch more of them at Safina Society's YouTube channel, and you could study with us online at arcview.org.